Good afternoon or good morning if you're in Vegas. This is Attorney Talib Karim, and I am the Executive Director with STEM for Us. I am a lawyer, a engineer, and in addition to leading the effort here at STEM for Us to rescue our youth from violence using AI tools, I also run a startup of my own, a legal technology company that is building AI tools for law firms, legal in-house, corporate counsel, and also government agencies. And so we're definitely excited about this particular panel. And from the very beginning, I want to just apologize to everyone. We actually were very much not only looking forward to, but we were en route to Las Vegas to join our colleagues at the National Bar Association convention, which is the convention of the largest organization representing lawyers of color in the world. And we were notified that a number of our leaders, including some of our speakers, had been exposed to President Biden when he made his trip and speech there at the National Bar Association convention. And so out of abundance of caution, we decided to bring this program to you nevertheless in a virtual format. So we are looking forward to having a lot of good conversations and want you all to interact by the chat. If you're joining us by YouTube, of course, feel free to put your comments or questions there in the chat, and we'll make sure we communicate with them. If you're joining us by any other the platforms, please be sure to comment, and just as if you were here in person, we promise to be mindful and diligent about engaging you and giving you an opportunity to participate. And of course, we know that the majority of you guys are going to be joining us after the event, and so we are very grateful that you are here. So I'm going to just first of all acknowledge all of our guests who are in the community waiting for us, and we're going to kind of bring them out and bring them in order of our program. And our program will kick off with just a welcoming remarks from both the local president of the local National Bar Association chapter, Caleb Green. We will also hopefully be giving remarks from the National Bar Association's president himself, Dominique Calhoun, and some of our other National Bar Association leaders. And then also we will have a special conversation about the legacy of Judge Arthur Burnett, the first African-American magistrate judge, federal magistrate judge. And then we look forward to having a conversation and presentation about the AI-based plan to rescue our youth from violence, as well as other strategies, innovative strategies that people might have. And then finally, we look forward to hearing from the Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford. And then from there, we are going to have a special call to action. We're looking forward to folks joining and participating in that call to action. And then following that, we look forward to concluding. So without any further ado, I'm just going to bring everybody that we have here in our background and our to join us, and look forward to introducing them. So I know that we first have Caleb Green. How are you, Caleb?
Doing well, Talib. Thanks for having me.
Good, getting that. I think we also have Judge Lynn Sherrod, who was one of the co-founders with Judge Burnett for the National Policy Coalition. And we look forward to her. How are you, Judge Sherrod?
I'm doing very well, and thank you very much for having the program.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I know I think we have Leah Perry, one of the attorneys who's leading the charge in AI, and very grateful that Leah can join us. Hey, how are you, Leah?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Excellent. As I understand, Leah is actually leading the state of Maryland's diligence in protecting the public from all kinds of consumer issues, but particularly those relating to AI, as the chairwoman of the Consumer Protection Commission. Is that correct? Did I say it correctly?
Yeah, so I chair the Maryland State Consumer Protection Commission. I'm also on the board of directors for the AI Trust Foundation that provides recommendations to regulators on AI. And just during the plenary session, happy to report that I'm now chairing the newly created Privacy, Cybersecurity, and Technology Law section under the National Bar Association.
All right. Well, sign me up for that one. Looking forward to helping with that very much so. And without any, also happy to be joined by the Attorney General from the great state of Nevada, Aaron Ford. How are you, Attorney General? And Dr. Ford, as I understand as well, right?
Aaron is fine. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, good. Well, we look forward to bringing everybody back on in due course. But we want to just give the stage to our local president of the National Bar Association there in the great state of Nevada. And that's none other than Caleb Green. Caleb, take it away and give us your remarks.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mr. Karim. First, just want to, I always believe in giving honor to whom honor is due. So I want to thank STEM for us for putting this on. Also want to recognize our other speakers, President Calhoun of the NBA, any and all of our former NBA presidents, Judge Sherrod, as well as our also LVNBA member, but also our State Attorney General, Aaron Ford. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be able to provide, number one, a welcome to each of you. I know, unfortunately, just due to health concerns, we want to appreciate STEM for us for transitioning this from an in-person event to a virtual one. I was looking forward to seeing people in person here in Las Vegas at the convention, but I do want to, on behalf of the local chapter of the National Bar Association, do want to extend our welcome to each of you that are either joining us virtually or joining us here in Las Vegas. It's been a little warm, but nonetheless, it's been a wonderful convention, and we're grateful to have you all and to be able to host you all for this 99th annual convention. By way of introduction, as mentioned, my name is Caleb Green. I'm president of the Las Vegas chapter of the National Bar Association, and it's really an honor to be here. I was very pleased to be invited to speak about this, especially for STEM for us, on the importance of artificial intelligence and how it's being used to solve issues in our community, namely youth violence. My background, I'm actually a technology and intellectual property attorney. I went to school, got my bachelor's degree in computer science, and have had the fortunate opportunity to help blend technology and my legal acumen to try to solve problems in the community. So it's very fitting for me to be able to be here to speak on this. I think it's a wonderful, I want to commend STEM for us and all the other stakeholders and sponsors who help make this possible because it is important. As artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies continue to grow, develop, and make its impact in our daily lives, it's important for us to be able to use those technologies to solve problems. And so I think it's just very fitting for us to recall the tribute to Judge Burnett, excuse me. And so I just want to thank you all for having us on behalf of the Las Vegas chapter. We're happy to sponsor today's event. And with that, I'll put it back in the hands of Mr. Karim.
Well, Caleb, I really want you to know how grateful we are for you and your leadership. I mean, clearly, this is the second or third time that we hosted an event like this in conjunction with our National Bar Association leaders. And it's always great to have local partners who are not just, leaders in terms of their titles, but leaders in terms of their character. And we really appreciate you, brother. And I want to congratulate you. As some of you all might know, Caleb is a newlywed, just returned from his wonderful honeymoon. And clearly, when you think about, again, and of course, we see Judge Sherrod clapping there, but indeed, we do have to give all honor to who it's due, and that is the Almighty. And the relationship of marriage is something that is sacred. And the reason why it's sacred is because it defines the relationships that really flow therefrom, and particularly to the children and the family. And we know, as I'm sure some of our speakers are going to talk about, that really this pandemic, and I think it is a pandemic of youth violence, is a direct relationship or direct result of the breakdown in the family. And no matter what you do, and this one thing that AI cannot replace a mother and father in terms of the love that that mothers and fathers and other members of our family. And it definitely takes a village to raise children. So we're looking forward to talking about how the AI tools can be used. But we really do need to have that family support. And again, we congratulate you, Brother Caleb, for starting your new family. A connection to both of your extended families, and we look forward to seeing great things coming out of you, Brother Caleb. And I did speak to one of your predecessors, Las Vegas National Bar Association president, now federal court judge, Bullware, who sends his greetings. And so we're very happy to have you as our partner, dear Caleb.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us, and the LVMBA is here to be a resource.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So next, I want to bring on, again, we had heard a little bit from Leah Perry, but I want to have her come back to the stage and talk to us about the work that she did there in the National Bar Association during the convention, the 2 panels that she organized, and how she is focused on how AI can be a tool for lawyers. And this is something that, of course, we know because we are making money, or hopefully making more money from that type of work. But Leah is really looking at it from both sides, from both the way that AI can be used as tools for businesses and lawyers in particular, but also what risks AI presents to the public, and how we need to protect them therefrom. So let's yield the floor to Leah Perry. Leah, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. And I should share, besides the multiple hats that I had told the audience that I wear, I am also Deputy General Counsel for Box Inc., which is a SaaS company, cloud content management company, where I run all of privacy legal, privacy compliance, information security law, regulatory, public policy, and AI governance. So I take the role that I have extremely seriously, as well as the role that I have from a regulatory standpoint. Just 4 weeks ago, I actually was in Europe speaking with regulators and speaking with Box customers and prospective customers about AI, including where regulations were going and where they were headed. And during that time frame, took a lot of input back to figure out how can we prepare, being not only the company that I work for, but as us as a nation, and us as Black people, and us as Black attorneys. And I took those learnings, and during this year's National Bar Association's annual convention, I created 2 AI CLEs. One was on AI and the evolving regulatory landscape, and the second one was on responsible AI and AI governance, operationalizing those principles. On the first particular panel, just to give a quick summary, there are over 800 jurisdictions that have proposed or have AI regulations in place, one of which is the European Union's EU AI Act, which recently came into force last week. And it will have a trickle-down effect, because so long as you are offering a product offering that uses AI, integrates with AI, or using EU data subjects information to train, that law is going to apply to you. And it has some of the largest fines in history for non-compliance. And so we walked through where these regulations are, as well as going over President Biden's executive order, proposed AI legislation at the state level in Connecticut, as well as in Colorado and California, amongst many others, and just created a roadmap in terms of what are the trends we were seeing, just to educate the audience. The reason why this is so important is that AI will be so impactful in the very way in which we work. It will be impactful to underserved communities, and particularly because of the risk posed to being left behind, the risk posed to individuals having data sets where the color of an African American skin is not trained on, so it can't even do proper facial recognition. So, the results are law enforcement approaching an individual because facial recognition did not have proper output because of the lack of proper training. So this use of AI has its risk. It could result in bias, discrimination when human oversight is not involved. It could be resulting in deep fakes or disinformation. So we're doing our best to make sure that the Black attorneys are educated about these risks and that Black attorneys can get ahead of it, because we definitely need a seat at the table as these regulations take shape. The second half was on responsible AI. So some of the risks that I just noted, what are they? What are the things that you need to be thinking about as an organization when you adopt AI either into your product offering, to your service, or just generally as an attorney when you work with AI? What are the proper usage? What do you need to be thinking about when you're considering AI developer and things of that nature? So with that in mind, I think the time is more than now. The urgency of now is ever present in terms of making sure that us as attorneys are educated in it, and that even more so our youth are educated in it, whether or not it's training on prompting, training on data sets, et cetera. Because if we don't learn it now, we'll be the ones that are left behind. So those are my comments today, and I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to engage on this important issue.
Well, I'm really very gratified, Leah, that you particularly talked about the creating of these large language models, because, like any technology, the technology can be used both as a tool and also as a weapon. And of course, when you are, as you mentioned, drawing upon these data sets to solve problems, but the data that you're using is already biased and tainted against people of color in particular, I definitely see it, as that, kind of that not tool, but as a poison, if you will. And we have to, as lawyers, be diligent. I know, as you know, about how we protect and we remedy that poison and make sure that the power of the AI, which is phenomenal, in terms of problem solving. And I was just, and I hopefully will be able to bring up some of our stream that shows the presentation that we made during our camp for boys at Camp Kappa just last week. The boys were just fascinated about how even AI can basically de-escalate a potential fight that they might have, in school. And just the solutions that can be utilized through AI are just phenomenal. But we absolutely have to make sure that the data that those solutions are drawing from is data that's good data, or else we will see a perpetuation of biases and perpetuation of some of the challenges that we're actually trying to confront and solve. So I take my hat off to you, Chairwoman Leah Perry, and we look forward to working with you and your team as you lead the charge in that effort, both with respect to your work in boxing. Of course, we have some AI tools we'd love to sell you, as well as in your work with the Maryland Consumer Protection Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next, we will be joined by Judge Lynn Sherrod. I know we have a number of other special guest speakers who are going to be joining us, and I want to bring Judge Sherrod on to talk with us about a bit about Judge Burnett, and to talk about who Arthur Burnett was and is in terms of his legacy that continues, to talk about his work with the coalition that he helped to co-found along with yourself, and to talk about the significance of him and his family. And we'll again be teeing up some background in the meantime, but I want to turn the floor over to Judge Sherrod. And Judge Sherrod, as I understand, you are out of Alabama. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I live in, work, and raise my family in Huntsville, Alabama. And good morning again to everyone. I certainly thank you for an opportunity to talk and to discuss Judge Arthur Burnett. I've known
Excellent.
Judge Burnett
And
for
before you start in that conversation, I'd like to ask you, if you could, just to set the stage, give us a little bit of background about yourself, Judge Sherrod, and the
absolutely.
organization you serve, and then you can go into the ocean of contributions that Judge Burnett left for us. Okay.
Absolutely. As an Alabama state elected judge, for many of you that do not know, in Alabama, we continue to elect judges in partisan elections. I was elected in a community that was only 26% non-white. And I was elected as a Democrat in a community that's believed to be more than 65% Republican. So it was a lot of hard work. And let me say that many people contributed to my success in the election arena. After becoming a judge, I was appointed to the municipal court in 1997 and won my first election in 2000. At that time, I was the first person of color to win an at-large election north of Birmingham. And it remained so until 20 years later when the second African American was actually elected. As a judge, I was the presiding juvenile court judge for 18 years. I also began drug courts in Madison County and began a family drug court, the first family drug court in the state of Alabama. The family drug court allowed us to bring the entire family under the umbrella of the court as we attempted to address issues involving children and families. In 2005, President of the National Bar Association, Clyde Bailey, in a discussion that included Judge Burnett, we wanted to do something to impact the lives of children and families while addressing issues of drugs. And the National African American Drug Policy Coalition was formed, and we continue to thrive to this date. Judge Burnett and I co-chaired the first quadrangular in Atlanta, Georgia, that involved bringing together the lawyers, the judges, the doctors, the social workers. We brought together nurses, law enforcement, to have a roundtable discussion on how we could collectively impact the lives of children and family as it was involving drugs. Judge Burnett served as the very first executive director of what we called NAADPC, which is the National African American Drug Policy Coalition, and I have served as the administrative vice president since its inception. Serving currently as the president of the organization is Dr. Winston Price, a physician out of Atlanta, Georgia. We have had only 3 presidents through the life of this, and one included the Honorable Kurt Smoke, who is now currently, at the time, he was at Howard Law School. And we have been housed on the campus of Howard's Law School since our inception. We have made many trips throughout the country. We have conducted surveys in Aruba, Barbados, Flint, Michigan, Los Angeles, Miami, and the resulting white papers that we have generated have been used to hopefully influence the dialogue surrounding drugs and children and families. It is our position, the position of NAADPC, that drugs should not be a judicial problem. It should not be in the criminal justice arena. We firmly advocate for, and our position is that drugs should be a healthcare problem. You know, we have plenty of health issues that are self-imposed. One is obesity, one is diet. And yes, we know the psychology is behind them, but what we're saying is we don't lock people up because they become diabetic. Instead, we treat them. So we want to take that same approach where drugs are concerned, that we don't want to continue the mass incarceration of people for drug issues when in fact no treatment is being given. It becomes a revolving door. We have a pipeline from the juvenile court to prison. I'm in Alabama. Drugs are a problem in Alabama. Crime is a problem in Alabama. Crimes involving children have become foremost in crime in Alabama, as well as throughout this nation. And the root of this, yes, drugs are a contributor, but I agree with you that the family dynamics make a big difference. These are issues that were very dear to the heart of Judge Arthur Burnett. I came to know Judge Burnett and his entire family. I have spoken with his widow Ann within the last week. We talk frequently. I've come to know his children. I used to tease them all the time, said they did such a great job with their children. I wish I'd known them earlier because I'd have let them raise mine. They did an absolute great job. All issues involving children and families have been forefront of his entire career. He Judge Burnett, I cannot say enough good things about him. You know his resume. Judge Burnett was the very first magistrate judge. We all know the history of how he ended up in law school and how he was discriminated against and how that colored his vision for the future. But he never lost sight of the fact that children is probably our greatest natural resource, and we cannot invest enough time, energy, and money into making them well. Uh, we can not only say they are our future, but our children. If we should miss out with our children, then we're going to miss a whole generation that's ahead of us. Judge Burnett and I traveled to Belfast, Ireland to discuss the drug problems and to discuss what could be done to aid children. And one of the reasons that we started the Family Drug Court is we wanted to put in more of a deterrent for our children while attempting to rehabilitate the adults in that family. You see, children don't have an option of where they live and who they live with, and they certainly can't choose their parents. Their parents choose each other. So children are sort of stuck in that household and they follow what's going on in that household, including the greatest teacher has always been the parents. So as part of the philosophy of my family drug court is we brought in not just the parents, but also the children. You know, somebody has to tell them that drugs are not good for you. They can kill you. We can do it in America. We taught the world that cigarette smoking can kill you. So we wanted to teach children Because if they see it going on a daily basis in their household, they're going to be very conflicted by what they may learn in school. So we wanted to make an attempt to impact them. We brought grandparents, aunts and uncles. Anyone that lived in the household with children became part of the audience that we were addressing as part of the family drug court model. We also impacted the children as much as we could. Judge Burnett gave his life and career to addressing these issues. And I certainly hope that you will be able to bring up the film strip that was created. We had a memorial for Judge Burnett on the campus of the Howard University Law School, his alma mater. And we also, it's not a very long film, so I hope you will have an opportunity to show that because it goes into a great deal of depth regarding his background.
Well, thank you. You actually, I think, really did give a wonderful um, conversation starter, because we really can't have a complete conversation in a total day about this man's legacy. Really, it takes volumes and volumes of treatise to talk about the contribution of Judge Arthur Burnett. But I know that we have a number of our guests who are here. So, but let us pull up the video, at least one of the videos that you have. And I think it's a beautiful video. We'll pull that up here and give everybody an opportunity to see again firsthand the beautiful construct that Judge Burnett was building and the vision that he had. So, can you see that, Judge? Are you able to see this?
Yes,
The
I
screen?
can. I can see that.
Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and play this one, and we'll try to also tee up the other one that you mentioned too. Here we go.
Arthur L. Burnett Sr., a retired judge from the Superior Court of the District of Columbia, and before then, a United States Magistrate judge in the U.S. Federal Court, the first African-American U.S. Magistrate judge in the history of the nation in 1969. I'm currently the National Executive Director and the Vice President of Administration of the National African American Drug Policy Coalition. Back in 1954, I became the first, we were called Negro or Colored, to enforce Brown versus Board of Education, and was selected to become the lead plaintiff in the Prince Edward Farmville school cases in order to implement the Supreme Court decision of desegregation in education. Since I made that sacrifice at 19 years of age to deal with desegregation in America, and later became special assistant to a gentleman named Robert F. Kennedy, and his eyes and ears in monitoring the Martin Luther King movement. As a judge on the court, seeing how many youngsters, especially minority youngsters, throw away their lives and their opportunities by getting involved in drugs and so forth, I felt a commitment to deal with the problem of prevention of teenage youth becoming involved in illegal drugs and in juvenile delinquency conduct, because they're throwing away the very opportunities that I put my life on line for, to give them the opportunities to be whatever their intellectual capacity would permit them to be doctors or lawyers or so forth. Let's not self-destruct and get involved in drugs and crimes and violence when the very things that Thurgood Marshall and Martin Luther King gave their lives to open doors of opportunity where a person, and this was could become president of the United States of African American descent. That's before I heard about Barack Obama, of course. And so the coalition actually now has 26 member organizations, just like a United Nations. And through those member organizations, we have over 1 million Black professionals that are working in an area of getting treatment for substance abuse and treating substance abuse and incidental possession of drugs because of the craving as a health problem rather than bouncing people in and out of prison. We come up with a youth program which involves self-determination and Black professionals reaching back and being constant mentors for kids starting in the 8th grade. So every black kid today who says he wants to be a doctor or she wants to be a doctor in 8th grade will get a doctor as a counselor mentor to guide that kid as if the kid were his own son or daughter. When the medical profession said they would do it, so could the National Bar Association, so did the social worker. So every national black professional organization is supporting our initiative, which is part of the president's We're Brothers Keepers initiative. Our program, for example, we send speakers into our public schools and in our private schools on a 72-hour notice to talk to kids from the 3rd grade all the way through high school on a year-round basis about not getting involved in drugs or underage drinking, not getting involved in juvenile delinquency conduct. So instead of the mass incarceration we have today, hopefully in 10 years, we will turn this country around and we will have a prison population of 300,000 to 500,000 maybe for violent criminals. But kids who had the intellectual capacity, we are using the black professionals as mentors, but not only mentors, counsel mentors, in order to inspire and motivate. And I go into schools and I tell our speakers, number one, talk about the health consequences of underage drinking, how it impairs the judgment, how it impairs the intellectual ability, your memory operation, your reaction time, reflexes. And then we tell them, but we're not here just to tell you negative things, to tell you what you should not do. We're here to tell you what you should do. I talk with people. I've talked with individuals who actually were teenagers or as young adults in prison, but they changed their attitudes in life and came out and went back to school and became masters of social work running drug treatment facilities. I run across people who have had prior criminal records who have become doctors. What America does not realize, that many people who go to prison, and that's another one, like, come out. And when they come out, they are more committed to go straight and to give greater service to society than people who have never fallen from grace. And I would say 30 or 40% of many people you run into have a criminal past, but today they are major contributors to society.
Well, that was amazing. Just to hear the judge's, kind of voice again. The last board meeting. So again, as a background, Judge Burnett was a member of. He once told me I'm a member of 100 different organizations. He used to say, as I was diligent as the executive director, trying to, squeeze him for his board dues. But he used to talk about how he was a member of 100 different organizations, and they were all, seeking his, feedback and input. But he joined us around this time, about a year ago in August, for our board retreat. And he wasn't able to be there in person, so he joined us remotely. But as you know, he was just full of wisdom and advice. And unlike a lot of judges, and again, I hope I won't get into trouble with any of the members of the bench, but I'm sure in present company not included. But as you know, a lot of judges, they hold themselves out as almost like kings or queens, and you don't see them really being basically connected to the people whose cases they have to adjudicate. But that was not the approach of Judge Burnett. He was very much a grassroots judge. I mean, in every sense of the word, he was with the people that he served, and he was committed to them to his very end. And he's definitely my parents, who are from that same ilk out of Memphis, Tennessee, and also before then Detroit, Michigan. They worked and served into their deaths, and Judge Burnett did the same. And so I can't say enough of him. And as you know, one of the things he used to brag about, and I thought you were going to bring it up, but I'll bring it up. He used to brag about the fact that he was the father of Viagra. And I say that because Judge Burnett's son, Arthur Burnett Sr. or Jr., was the noted heart surgeon out of Johns Hopkins University, who created the first formula for actually heart purposes and also hair growing purposes that were eventually used for men's health, reproductive health as well. So all of our as brothers have a great debt to pay to Judge Arthur Burnett. Judge Sherrod, any last comments before I bring on? I see we have both the president of the National Bar Association, President Calhoun, as well as the past president, Joseph Drayton, waiting in the wings. But do you have any last comments to share about Judge Burnett?
If you don't mind, sir, let me defer my comments to the end. I'm very much aware that President Calhoun's on a fairly tight schedule right now, and I will certainly defer and allow you to go directly to him, that we will have an opportunity to certainly hear his comments.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. Well, without any further ado, let me again thank Judge Sherrod, and just put her back in the wings and bring on our president. Is this the 90? Are you the 99th president or the 98th president, President Calhoun?
I'm actually the 81st.
81st president. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The organization is getting ready to celebrate its 100th year, though, right?
That's correct. We're in the midst of celebrating our 99th annual convention. Next year we'll celebrate our centennial, and so it's been a phenomenal ride.
Excellent. Well, without any further ado, let me bring on the 81st president of the National Bar Association, and out of the great state of Texas, near and dear to my heart as a former chief counsel to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. And of course, our prayers are out to her as she and her whole family and the community seeks to rally around her during her struggle with pancreatic cancer. And I really appreciated the post you were giving her an award recently, President Calhoun. So let me just again turn it over to you and express my gratitude on behalf of STEM for us for your hospitality you had made available. A part of your presidential powers space for us to host this conversation there during the convention, and again because of COVID concerns and other health matters, we decided to go to a virtual option, but we're grateful that you would still nevertheless give us some of your time. So without any further ado, let me just turn it over to you.
Well, Talib, thank you so much for the invitation, not only to be with the members, but also your sentiments about Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She has been a dear friend, a mentor, and yes, in her time of need, I know that many Houstonians, Texans, and individuals all around this world and nation are sending her well wishes and prayers. And so thank you so much for acknowledging that. She is, as I stated, a dear friend, and I wish her well and hope for the best in her recovery. But we are here to celebrate a man, a legend, who I directly benefit from. Many of people don't know this, but my story, I have an uncle who served in the Texas Penitentiary. My brother is currently there. I've had a number of cousins who have all been a part of something that Judge Burnett has attempted to eliminate, this prison to pipeline as a result of drugs, and all of the work that he did to eliminate this construct has been phenomenal in my life. Those conversations with the youth and ensuring that they're not headed in that direction were conversations that I directly benefited from. Understanding how this process works, understanding the criminal justice system has been phenomenal. And it's one of the reasons why we implemented what's called the Talk, a conversation about constitutional rights during my administration, where we traveled around this country educating youth of the same, understanding their constitutional rights when they have dialogue and discussion with police officers, so that we can try to prevent in the best way that we can and hedge off the negative outcomes that we've seen in this nation. And so I'm so thankful for all the work that you're doing, for the host of speakers that are here to acknowledge the life, the legacy of this man. He was tremendous, not only in the civil rights era, but also within the powers that he wielded while on the bench and even as an advocate for our people. And so on behalf of the National Bar Association, I'm so thankful, not only for him and his contributions, but also to you for making sure that we acknowledge the service of Judge and making sure that we pay due respect to his legacy. So thank you all, and I appreciate being here with you.
Well, President Calhoun, and of course, we know that you're also a leader in the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity as well. We really salute you for being cut in that same elk. I can say, that not all people in leadership, even in the National Bar Association, are as accessible as you. And I'm just saying this to the new crop of leaders as well. Sometimes, President Calhoun, as you know, people seek leadership just for their own, status. And they don't understand, as Judge Burnett understood, and of course, as you understand, that the leader is actually the servant. And, and really the leader, a good leader is the best servant first. And that means to connect with the people who are being impacted by your leadership and making yourself available and accessible and saying yes as often as possible. So you have demonstrated that, President Calhoun, and I pray for the future, leaders that are coming behind you, that you will, try to impart that upon them, because a lot of, again, our new leaders, they don't understand that. And quite frankly, I believe that the young people see it. They see it, and their like callousness towards life, for example, by killing people as easy as they do, is to me a manifestation of what they see from the top, from the leaders. They see the leaders don't care about them, and so they don't care about others. I don't know if you want to speak to that before you leave, but we certainly appreciate it.
Well, and because we're talking about the legacy of a great man, we have to remember that a lot of his work and a lot of the activity was centered around reminding youth about where we come from. And before I came here to speak with you, I just left a radio interview, and we talked about this similar issue as we are combating everything that's going on around our nation. And yes, this is the most quintessential election of our time. And I know over the last decade or two, we've heard this. We've heard how important it is. But we are on the cusp of a rollback of a lot of our freedoms and liberties that we've experienced if we don't act and if we don't collectively engage. And a part of that has to do with what Judge Burnett tried to do, which is make sure that we never lost focus, make sure we never lost sight or had that history erased. And the more that we could make sure that we are educating our youth about the things that are happening, the better off we'll be as a nation and as a country. And so I say to you this, it is so imperative. Yes, leaders have to be servant, and I've tried to do that throughout my entire administration. Be anywhere that our membership wanted. But we also have to make sure that our youth never forget where we came from, that the story is always told, and it's told truthfully, even though it may bring back some scars, even though there may be some opportunities where those things you do not want to remember. You don't want your memory recollected that well about some of these things. But in order for us as a nation to never go back there, those stories must be told. And so I thank you for being here. I thank Judge Burnett for having that as one of the core tenets of his leadership and making sure that we tell the truth, the whole truth, as they say, and nothing but making sure that our youth are aware of all of that we have achieved within this nation.
Well, again, President Calhoun, we appreciate you, and we know that your schedule is very pressing, so we will excuse you for the rest of the duties that you have, and we just pray that for the remaining time that you are the leader, that you continue to do a great job, and that when you move to the position of our next speaker, Joe Drayton, becoming an alumni of the prestigious fraternity of National Bar Association presidents, that you will continue to impart your mentorship on this next generation to make sure that they remain as servant leaders, if you will.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Y'all take care.
Yes, sir. Well, again, I am grateful, and now would like to bring to the stage one of the former presidents. I guess, were you the 78th president, Brother Drayton, or
76.
76th president? All right. So without any further ado, on bringing together Joe Drayton, the 76th president of the National Bar Association, who also has a special connection with Judge Burnett. So I will yield the floor to you, President Joe Drayton.
Yeah, I think in some ways all of us have a special connection to Judge Burnett. I want to thank you, Brother Karim, for taking the leadership reins on this, because it's very important. So let me say thank you to you. Judge Burnett was one of my fraternity brothers, and his work, our cardinal principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. And I think those cardinal principles sort of drove the passion in some of Judge Burnett's work. So, for example, in this coalition, he was promoting scholarship, he was promoting uplift, and he recognized and he wanted to turn this premise into action on the transformation that anyone, no matter what station you have, how you're born, what family you're born into, whether it's poverty or not, that education is the magic that can change your life. And that was one of the things that I think drove Judge Burnett. To me, he stands for being courageous. He stands for being passionate. He stands for being forgiving. And he stands for being present and being a hero where you can. So for me, when I reflect on Judge Burnett, I reflect on those things. And I think we, should try to emulate his passion, but not just his passion, but his he really stuck to the things that he believed in. He backed them up through great work. And so we should all try to imitate and produce great work like Judge Burnett. Now, AI is extremely powerful. It's a powerful tool. And I think we can use it to further the mission and the principles that drove Judge Burnett. And when you talk about content creation and integrating positive messaging and intertwine it with youth content and programming to have broader reach and also have be relentless in that mission, those are the kind of things that AI can help us accomplish. And so we can be bigger, stronger, faster, and more efficient, through the use of AI. And so I think STEM for Us should continue this work, but should partner with the National Bar Association and other leading organizations to really bring AI to life and bring the energy, bring the passion, and bring the talent that lawyers like within the National Bar Association have, and impart that into great content and disseminate it, and even create it, using AI. And if we do that, I think we will make Judge Burnett proud.
I think that you're absolutely right, Judge, or not Judge. Maybe you are foretelling, Judge. You're going to be filling Judge Burnett's shoes soon on the federal court. I personally think that would be a great addition to the federal court. That's the Third Circuit, right? The Fifth
I'm
Circuit.
in the Second Circuit, practicing the Second Circuit and the Federal Circuit. I've been mistaken for a judge before, so you never know. We'll see what the future brings. Absolutely.
Well, a couple of things I think that is worthy of just commenting on your points in twofold. One, in terms of, again, Judge Burnett taking the principles of your fraternity and turning them into action in terms of the work that he committed to undertake. So we definitely salute both of you all in that respect. But also in the context of being innovative. I know that your background is in patent and intellectual property law. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. And so, as a former or current intellectual property lawyer, although in doing work in the technology creation, I guess, space now, I also acknowledge what you said about how this new technology can be used as an equalizer, particularly as it relates to our youth. And it can, as I was at the Camp Kappa work last week with the youth, we gave each one of the young people who said they wanted to become $1 billion investor. They wanted to become a billionaire, like Gates and some of these other people. We said, okay, well, how would you do that? And someone said, okay, I want to create a technology company. I said, well, what type of technology? He said, I don't know. And we literally, Joe, we used our chat GPT to come up with the best technology that they could develop and a go-to-market plan for them on how they could become, basically a company that generated $100 million annual recurring revenue within 18 months. This is all in the power of a young 12 or 13-year-old. And so it is absolutely correct that this AI technology and other tools that are going to be coming, up. This AI is just one of the many that we can expect to see. That this technology can be used as a way of balancing the scales. And so I salute you for being one of the people. I'm sure you were supportive of the new section or that was created by Leah Perry, and we're looking forward to her. But Brother Drayton, I definitely would just ask that you continue that leadership. And I know we have some other speakers like Beverly Ann Fields, who's also, I think, a intellectual property based attorney. I know she's an engineer, as I understand, as well. But we just encourage you, Brother Joe Drayton, if you could, to support this work of STEM for Us. We have to raise $15 million. And we know that we got to create an army of people who believe like you, that this technology can be used and that it can be a game changer. And right now, as we speak, as you know, just this past weekend, a young man, 20 years old, came within inches of perhaps causing a race war. I mean, it could have been real tight for us all had that bullet, come a few inches closer to its target. But this is a demonstration. This is youth violence. 20-year-old person. Well, I don't know how that happened. I guess it's going to come out. But on the surface, 20-year-old young man with an AR-15 shooting and killing at least one person. And this is what we see playing out on our streets every single day. In New York, places where you live, and here in DC. And so any final words, Brother Drayton?
Well, look, I think, number one, technology is a bridge. And I think it's not just a tool, but it's a bridge. And it's a bridge between us and our youth. And I think if we use that bridge effectively, we can make a difference, and a positive difference in reducing youth violence. And that's the mission. And so I'm supportive of STEM for Us. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I want to see us meet our goal. And so with that, I say thank you, and a big shout out to Judge Burnett and all that he's done. And we should just try to keep up with him as we run the race of life.
Thank you, Brother Drayton, and have a wonderful day, brother.
Cool.
Well, I'm grateful now to again, the past president who joined us as one of our hosts. And I want to bring up another one of our hosts, and that's none other than Beverly Ann Fields, one of my Howard University schoolmates, who was serving on Capitol Hill as I served in Capitol Hill for another Texas congresswoman. And perhaps you can speak about her and her legacy as a chairwoman of the Committee on Science and Technology. And that's another than Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, of course, the late Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, but also in your current role as the Chief of Staff of the Office of Forensics in the District of Columbia. And that is a very important office, especially as we address this issue of youth-related violence. So without any further ado, Beverly Ann Fields.
Oh, thank you so much, Talib. It is an honor to be here with you all today to honor a great man, Judge Burnett. And I, yes, did attend Howard University and received a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. And as you talk about Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, we talk about her efforts in science and engineering and STEM, and we talk about children, that pipeline to STEM is very critical. And one of the ways that we develop a different pipeline as opposed to pipeline to prison, we developed that pipeline to technology careers. And the Congresswoman was very active and very instrumental in creating such a pipeline. And I would say that Talib Karim also is very instrumental in creating such a pipeline. So as a engineer, I am very proud to see that pipeline created. I also attended Howard University School of Law and very proud graduate. And so when we talk about the legal realm and we talk about children in our future in prison, we look at the penal system. And yes, Judge Burnett was a great person to ensure legally that we are serving our children appropriately because they are the future of this nation. I serve currently as the International Connection and Social Action Chair for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And why do I bring that up? Our social action program is called Advocate for Social Justice. And Judge Burnett was named an advocate for action by the National African American Drug Policy Coalition. And it is a very worthy name for him. And I want to thank Talib for acknowledging him and his work as an advocate. And I want to encourage everyone because what I am doing is taking a look at Judge Burnett's service as a servant leader, as we've talked about, and how he has advocated. And I'm going to use his model and his leadership in my own role and as I look to advocate for social justice. And I encourage everyone to look at his leadership and implement his model in all that they do, particularly when it comes to children. His model is definitely worthy of replicating. And I think that if we all do that, I think this world with our children as our future will certainly be a great place. And again, I want to thank Talib for this wonderful tribute to the most honorable servant leader, Judge Burnett. Thank you so much, Talib.
Well, Beverly, as you may remember, in the days that we were traversing on Howard Law's campus, Judge Burnett had an office on the top of the floor there, along with, I think, the Journal of Negro, the Chronicles of Negro Education, as I understand it. And it was before the renovation, so this going up there to his office was quite a chore, if you will. Not as well kept as I'm sure some of his other offices were. But he was there. He was on the campus of Howard University, in the very top, if you will, of the buildings. Basically doing the work that he was doing, and oftentimes without fanfare, but for the youth. And just yesterday we were talking about how even the staff of the DC agency who was seeking to place young people in jobs, the Department of Employment Services, sadly, its workers have to constantly fear for their lives because sometimes the office itself comes under gun attack, or even as they, kind of walk to and from the metro, some of the workers are attacked. And of course, your work in the DC Office of Forensics, you see it every day, the carnage and the result of a lack of parenting, a lack of family structure, a lack of discipline, and a lack of delayed gratification and conflict management. All of these things that we seek as STEM for Us and our AI-based program to address. As you conclude, what advice do you give to our leaders about how we can employ some of these training mechanisms and technologies to excite our young people and hopefully solve this youth violence pandemic?
Well, I would say that here at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, where I work, we pride ourselves in ensuring that we reach out to the community with ensuring that the youth have access to the different types of careers that are available to them. Many don't know about toxicologists, engineers, anthropologists, medical examiners, which are all of the type, epidemiologists, which are all of the type of professions that we employ here at our office. So we love it when we are able to go out to career fairs, into the community with our staff to talk about what we do. It's very different, and most of the students have never heard of any of those careers. I want to point out, too, that Judge Burnett was the first general counsel for the Metropolitan Police Department here in the district. And if I go back to what I said before, if we take a look at his leadership and his servant advocacy, if we look at that penal system and his role as general counsel at MPD, when we have children that are in jeopardy, that may be challenged, it is his type of compassion that I know he brought to his role at MPD that we need. So in addition to ensuring that our youth are exposed to various careers and something different that they may do, we also have to ensure that we have the compassion and the advocacy that Judge Burnett brought to the table.
That's right. Well, I couldn't say it any better than you did, Beverly Ann Fields. And we appreciate your service, both in the context of your office with the forensics office there, as well as your role in Kappa Alpha, and also the links as well in DC. You have so many leadership roles, and we salute you in every one of those leadership roles, and we look forward to working with you. And we want to invite you, Beverly. You've been one of our supporters, but I really like to have you. We need new leaders to serve as Judge Burnett served on our board, for example. And so we want to just put a plug in your ear. We'd love to talk with you, but at minimum to have you support us in our capital campaign to raise $15 million by serving as one of our soldiers. We need good soldiers like you. Can we count on you serving?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Beverly and Fields, and we wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you, Talib, for all that you're doing and your efforts with the youth. Please move forward. Keep it up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Well, we are grateful to have all those speakers, and now we've come to our keynote speaker, and that's none other than the Attorney General for the state of Nevada. And we appreciate him being so patient. I know we're kind of behind schedule, but Attorney General, welcome back, and please feel free to share with us your vision. I know that youth violence is again no stranger to your community. I was seeing the case of the teens who seem to be playing Grand Theft Auto in real life by running over people, including one bicyclist who was a former police chief in California, who had come to Nevada just to retire and spend the last parts of his life in peace. And I'm sure he never thought in his wildest imagination that he would be confronted with that type of just brutality. and seeing the young people, smiling at each other during the court proceeding, it just breaks my heart. Because in one sense, we want to be compassionate with our youth, but these youth are just acting more like zombies than youth. Attorney General. So please, feel free to share with us your thoughts and your solutions, as well as comment on and actually we didn't get a chance to present our solution, so we'll do ours after you do yours, and we'll hopefully conclude it after that. So without any further ado, the Attorney General from the great state of Nevada.
Well, thanks so much, Talib. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My apologies for the background. I am secluded and isolating away. I was with the president the last couple of days, and he has announced he has COVID. So I unfortunately have to isolate here in my room, and hopefully you will excuse my background there. But it's great to be here. I am Aaron Ford, the Attorney General for the state of Nevada. And first, let me thank STEM for Us and the National Bar Association for putting together this special event in honor of Judge Burnett. I also want to thank the sponsors of the event, Abe Legal, Paul Weiss, and the LVNBA, National Bar Association President Dominique Calhoun, my frat brother, Nuke, former NBA presidents and other hosts and invited guests. I count it as a privilege to be here today among such esteemed guests to honor the late Judge Arthur Bennett Sr. Listen, as I understand the the purpose of this event, it's the honor Judge Burnett, who, as you've heard already, and we all know, was our first African-American federal magistrate judge. But he was also a special assistant attorney general to Bobby Kennedy, working to ensure the constitutional rights of civil rights leaders weren't being violated. And that's something that is certainly worth mentioning, especially in this day and age where political violence is becoming one of the headlines. Judge Burnett certainly had an exceptional life, but his should not be the exception. And if we don't put in the work to help prevent youth violence, then in fact we are not doing the job that we should be doing. You've talked about one of the instances that's taken place here in my own backyard, and it is certainly something that we are not proud of. But the current landscape of youth violence is certainly something that we should be taking note of. According to the CDC, homicide is the third leading cause of death for young people ages 10 to 24, and the leading cause of death for Black youth. Here in Las Vegas, homicide rates are down in general, but among teenagers, it has skyrocketed. And in 2022, we had 4 teens arrested for murder. In 2023, the number jumped to 24. One particular story, as you've indicated, made the headlines, and there are several others that have made the headlines, but 17-year-old Jonathan Lewis Jr. was assaulted by a group of his classmates about a block away from his school after defending a friend who was being bullied. According to the reports, this incident led to 15 teens brutally beating this young man to the extent that he succumbed to his injuries. He was literally beaten to death, according to the reports. To date, police have identified and arrested 10 suspects. 4 have been charged as adults, and the remaining are facing charges in juvenile court. It is not, again, something that we're proud of, and it is certainly something that we have to look at addressing. The level of violence that we're seeing here in Nevada correlates with our rank as the 47th in the nation for overall child well-being in the 2024 Children's Advocacy Alliance report. In this report, key indicators in education show worsening reading and math proficiency. In economic well-being, the key indicators show that 19% of Nevada's children are living in poverty, and almost 10% of Nevada's teenagers and teens are neither go to work nor school. And so it's hard for our youth to think more highly of themselves and have hope for their futures when they live with the effects of our lack of investment in their overall well-being. With the pervasive role that social media plays in our world, our children aspire to be internet famous and to end up being more inspired by social media influencers and SoundCloud rappers than the great leaders like Judge Burnett, who paved the way for their access to equal education. Yet we continue to sow the seeds of self-worth and respect in our youth, despite all of that. And it's easy to blame bad parenting or some other societal issue, but at the end of the day, we all have to live with the violent consequences of children who go unseen unheard and uncared for. And so it's incumbent upon all of us to continue that work, which is one of the reasons why I'm so proud of the work that STEM for Us is doing. The program, as I understand it, the STEM for Us plan to protect against cyber risks and cyber youth violence. It focuses on engaging boys ages 11 through 16 to provide them and their parents with training, mentoring, after-school support, and summer camps, all important activities. And what's special about the program, at least from my perspective in particular, is that they work with youth who are currently involved in the criminal justice system and may already be incarcerated. They offer these young men and boys 600 hours of intensive training and even job placement so that when they finish serving their sentence, they can re-enter society and be ready to contribute to it with a high earned skill. I'll leave the details of the program to STEM for Us to talk about further. But again, I want to be I want to acknowledge the very good work that you're doing in that arena, especially on the reentry part. Listen, one of the things that I like to talk about quite a bit is the impact on youth and community that community-based programs can have. And so a focus on community-based and trauma-informed approaches to these issues that target root causes of criminal behavior, they make a difference in the lives of youth. But not only with them, it makes a difference in the communities where they live. In particular, restorative justice programs. They maximize meaningful victim input by allowing them to express their needs, to participate in the development of a personalized plan of what accountability, punishment, and rehabilitation looks like for an offender and the harm he or she has caused. It gives ongoing feedback about the case progress. It facilitates their ability to obtain case information and to obtain greater access to community resources in order to address the harm that they've experienced. I know the Washington, D.C. area, my former colleague in the Attorney General's office there, Carl Racine, had a very robust program in the juvenile justice arena for restorative justice programs. And so I want to lift that up as well as something that we are very proud of and some we would like to replicate out here. I won't tarry long. I just want to say thank you so much again for the work that STEM for Us is doing. Thank you to all of those who engage in this work. Gun violence prevention is something that I've been committed to since my days, even before Attorney General, and includes in my days in the state Senate. And as the first Black Attorney General, it really is important to me that we continue to talk about this. Again, as Nevada's first Black Attorney General, and everything my staff and I have been able to accomplish in the criminal justice reform arena is because of the path that has been carved out by people like Judge Burnett and his lasting legacy. Programs like STEM for Us are examples of how the public can take steps to reintegrate youth offenders into our society, to see them as human and to allow them to take the steps they need to rehabilitate themselves and right their wrongs. We can't allow youth who've made mistakes to not learn from their mistakes. We simply can't write them off. We must engage in an opportunity to teach them so that they can understand that their actions are wrong, but they have much more to offer society. And so if we continue working together as we have been doing, I'm looking forward to seeing how rehabilitation, learning, and remediation can be prioritized, and we can continue to improve our station in life. So thanks so much for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Well, I mean, Attorney General, I just want you to know how grateful I am to you for being so diligent. And I think we have a couple of questions. I want to make sure we pose those to you. At least we have one question. Is one is just going to say that this work, it can be game changing. Do you have a couple of minutes, Attorney General? I know we're behind schedule, but for a little bit of an exchange. You're on mute. Well, while he pulls up, I'm gonna. I think you were. For some reason, I don't know why you aren't mute. Okay. Oh, you have to leave. Okay. Let me see. Unmute. You can't unmute. Okay. All right, Attorney General. I think he has to leave. You can't hear us? Can you hear us? All right. You can hear it, but we can't hear you. All right. Well, let's see if we can get the Attorney General back on. If we can. But I'll speak to the program that he was discussing, and that is the Attorney General's comments just mentioned how STEM for Us has an amazing program to address youth violence. And so, how did this program come? Well, as you may know, STEM for Us celebrated last year, 2023, 10 years of working, engaging with young people. And one of the things that we noticed since 2020 during the pandemic, that there was a significant rise in youth violence. And so we began to just study, how did this come about? How did all of a sudden our young people, in terms of their violent behavior, began to skyrocket? And we noticed some trends from the studies that we undertook. So one of the trends that we noticed, that during the pandemic, it was for a lot of parents who actually had, two parents in that household, it was a great opportunity for them to engage with their children in a way that they had never engaged, particularly in terms of the education process. Parents were thrust into the job where they should have always been, and that is as the teachers. They were the teacher, at least the teaching assistants, helping their children in remote learning, helping them with homework in a way that they probably never had done. And it was a way in which those parents, particularly in households that were more than one parent, they were able to really help their children to thrive. And many reported that. However, for the majority of the households in our country, particularly in the African American community, that there is only one parent, there were some very tragic evidence anecdotally, and because there's not yet been studies published that talk about this. But one of the major sad consequences that, or trends that we saw, that with mothers, particularly mothers who had boys, multiple boys, they found themselves totally overwhelmed because school had been the time in which their sons particularly were able to go and be managed by a whole team of people. But now suddenly that they were responsible for managing them, and not just at nighttime when they came out of school, but 24/7. And so one of the things that happened is that a lot of these moms began to result to diving into other forms of narcotics or other forms of escape to prevent them from just being consumed by that responsibility, if you will. Other mothers, instead of consuming substances, they began to basically dive into social media and absorb that almost kind of as an addiction. And so while they were escaping from the challenges that came from just having to manage their sons 24 hours a day during the school hours, their children, both school and non-school, they began, especially after school, to begin to withdraw. And oftentimes they began consuming on their own some of the most horrible forms of gaming, electronic gaming, from Grand Theft Auto to Call to Duty to Sniper. Literally these games, reward students for essentially committing all kinds of atrocities. And so after the quarantine ended, and which, again, prevented children from going out, when they were able to go out, many of them began to actually carry some of those things that they had been consuming as a gamer into the reality, the world of real life. And especially because they had masks, they could hide their identity, they began to engage in some of the most brutal forms of conduct, similar to what they would do in these games. And it only began to skyrocket because some of them began to record themselves, and they would bring that content back and joke. And that has been apparently a trend that has continued even to this day. Now what we see, especially during the summer months, where young people are not in school, an explosion of brutality in places like Memphis, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Nevada, Minnesota. Everywhere across this country, particularly in the cities, you see this type of brutality. And again, you need only look at what we saw happen on Saturday as another demonstration of youth violence, where a young man almost killed the former president of the United States. So what do we do about it? Well, after all these studies, we brought together a panel to have a conversation with all the people who should be involved in that conversation, from people from that faith community, from parenting community, from healthcare, from mental health, from education community, the law enforcement community, the legal leaders, the HR leaders, the technology leaders, and we came up with some recommendations. And these recommendations were essentially synthesized using AI technology to create and build 3 particular buckets of helping our young people. The first 2 buckets are in the prevention area. And we start with a STEM Leadership Academy in the summertime, modeled after one of the best programs that has ever been developed, and that's the Upward Bound program. And as you may know, if anybody knows anything about Upward Bound, it takes young people away for the summer into a college campus, gives them exposure to basically living on their own to some extent, working together with other young people, being managed by resident assistants, and helping them to kind of get a feel of what it's like to be on a college campus. So our program would do the same, but it would be slightly different. What it would do is take them to a college campus, but also give them a couple of things that we've seen also that have been historic. And one of the most successful programs for disciplining Black boys of the past 100 years, we began to research, and again, the AI technology research bears this out, has been the program of the Nation of Islam. And again, I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam, but definitely I can see the benefits that these brothers do, again, convey to the young people of discipline and teaching them how to, first of all, drill. And as a former Air Force Academy student, I know that drilling instills essentially self-control, and also it teaches people how to follow instructions. And if you can follow instructions, then you can learn. And if you can't follow instructions, then it's going to be difficult for you in the learning process. And so that it will combine that type of boot camp experience, the Upward Bound experience, and then also something else that this program would provide is young people with an opportunity to either learn about how to become an AI developer, or a IT networking assistant, or someone who's working in the construction fields, but essentially vocational training. This program would provide them with an opportunity to get their hands, if you will, wet or dirty, if you will, in that type of work. And then lastly, speaking of dirt, they would also be given an opportunity to work on a farm. As you may know, a lot of young people used to be sent to the farm from up north every year as a way of kind of giving them a sense of discipline, and also how to manage money, because you were able to make money while working on the farm. And they will also learn how to do hard work. And those are some of the things that our young people really don't have exposure to these days. And so that program would start there in the summer, and then once the school began. Lastly, while the boys are away, the program will provide twice a week coaching in a group setting and then in a one-on-one setting with their parents. So a tremendous opportunity to provide not only, again, training for the boys, but also oftentimes they're single unwed mothers who need these types of resources. And more importantly, it would give these mothers a community of other mothers and fathers to some extent who are working together to provide their young people with a great opportunity and a pathway to success. And so that's what that program consists of. And then, as was mentioned before, we do also realize that there are young people who have already fallen through the cracks. And so for them, we want to provide them with a way out by giving them 600 hours of intensive, first of all, mental health and coaching, because we believe that, oftentimes the reason why they're there is because they haven't gotten the types of discipline and time management and value setting that many of us have gained, and that prevents us from falling into that crack. And so we want to give that to them. And then once we've given and embedded them with that, then we want to give them the vocational training, some of the vocational training that we provide to our boys. And then finally, we want to give them a opportunity to be placed in jobs. So when they leave the confinement, they're able to go to an environment, and they have mentors also that are helping them, not just giving them a job, but also a mentor at that job so they can succeed in it. And hopefully themselves, after a year, they themselves are being looked upon as being someone who can come back and be a mentor to the next cohort. And lastly, we're going to be placing them in jobs that are making a lot of money. And so as a way of restorative justice, we're going to be making sure that they themselves pay into a victims assistance fund, so those people who are harmed by their mistakes are able to benefit from their new leaf on life, if you will. And so that's what STEM for us has to offer. And we know that there's no silver bullets. But we think that if we can get $15 million to establish demonstration projects in both up here and up the north and down south, that we can create the data needed so the federal government can take this program and scale it for every young person in this country who needs such attention and such support, to give them that opportunity. And again, we know that some of our young people are just so far removed that we might not be able to get them immediately. But hopefully through peer pressure, by seeing other young people who benefit and are able to change their lives, prayerfully, we can create a new movement to rescue our young people from what many call almost kind of a zombification, where they're just literally, zombies walking around committing the types of atrocities that they're committing every day, and really help them to become the beautiful, bright, dynamic superstars that each and every one of our young people are. So that's a little bit about what we have. And again, I don't know if the Attorney General is still with us, but let's bring to the table Judge Sherrod, and then let's see if Caleb, I don't know if Caleb is still with us, or Leah, if they want to get back into this conversation. But what do you think, Judge Sherrod and Caleb, about this presentation that we gave about the STEM for us? Were you all able to see the presentation, by the way? Okay, great. So
absolutely.
Judge Sherrod, do you have any?
Yes, and let me say this has been an awesome program. Thank you so much for putting it together. As we attempt to remember Judge Burnett and to memorialize what he would want going forward, I think it's incumbent upon each of us to work to develop a plan that will allow us to continue to work with our youth. We've got to change the per diem that we're looking at right now. More and more children are committing more and more crime at a much earlier age. I was a juvenile court judge for 18 years. When I started juvenile court, most of the offenders were young white males. As time progressed and as we sought equality for women, more and more girls came into the court system. When I left the juvenile court system, the girls became a majority clientele in that system. And we need to do something to impact this. We must Absolutely must. And let me say, I'm a firm believer that the roadmap starts with education. We must start because that's where we spend most of our time with our children. We teach them to read and to write. We've got to also teach them to not be violent. We've got to teach them alternatives to violence. We've got to teach them alternatives to dispute resolution. We've got to train them in the manner that they can become successful. And I applaud you. AI is not part of our future, it's here now. And anything that can aid us in creating young people that will be here able to sustain this lifestyle that you and I have grown accustomed to. We want to employ all possible tools that will help us in this development. I think it's time for us to bring together all of the major professionals, and I commit to you as Vice President for Administration of NAADPC. We now have 28 member organizations, and those 28 member organizations represent more than 1 million of Black professionals in the United States and in the Caribbean islands. That we want to be a part of the solution. We want to be a part of the planning. We want to be at the table. We want to help bring together these great minds that you and I know are out there. And let's focus it on developing what is going to be needed to strengthen our families, that we can also prevent more and more of our children from taking the road to crime.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Judge, because one of the things that we were noticing down in Shelby County, Tennessee, where my father served as a elected official, that there they spent about $1.6 billion on the school system there in Shelby County, and sadly they have to spend about the same $1.9 billion on the criminal justice and public safety. And did you know that anecdotally there was some evidence that at least out of the juvenile and criminal courts, that about 90 to 99% of those defendants had one thing in common? Did you know what that was, Judge?
Well, no, I do not. Not for Shelby County. I can tell you a common denominator here in Alabama,
What is
where
that?
the common denominator here in Alabama, in our prison system, only 3% of the people have graduate degrees. In the
Now
prison system
that's interesting. That's very
the
interesting.
criminal system in Alabama, the majority of the inmates come in without even a high school diploma.
Well, interesting, and I don't know if what county is that in Alabama where you were serving?
That is I served in Madison County. We're the most affluent county in the state. I'm
Madison
talking
County.
statewide. So the
Okay.
theory, to put it in very common language, is education is a big
Well,
deterrent.
that's the connection I wanted to mention, because we found that between 90 and 90%, 99% of those defendants were all being educated by the same institution, that's Shelby County Public Schools. So they were spending $1.6 billion to essentially produce criminals that are coming out and criminalizing our children, and not just our children, but criminalizing us, our communities. And so one of the things that we began to see is that the education system itself is broken. When we were coming up, I can definitely tell you myself, I definitely benefited from some corporal punishment. I'll just put it like that. I benefited from corporal punishment. Without corporal punishment, I wouldn't be the person who I was, because I was, like a lot of our young people, I was hard-headed. You know what I mean? I was hard-headed, didn't have, even though I came from a two-family, I wanted to basically just impress my friends and, got into a lot of trouble. But it was because our schools at that time not only was teaching people how to read and write, they were also teaching values. They were also teaching discipline. They were also teaching time management. And these are the things that we've got away from in terms of our schools, Judge. And now we even criminalize parents who want to basically discipline their children. So how can we have a society that is successful if the parents themselves don't have, the ability, and even the teachers are have their hands tied, and can't really engage in the type of discipline that is necessary for some of our young people? I don't
I
know if
found in
you.
my court system that many of the parents became first-time parents before age 18. So
Mhm.
we had children having children. So it
Right.
became necessary to teach the parents how to parent because they had not had an opportunity to grow up, and they certainly did not have role models or people there to just give them the basic information that was necessary. That was
Very.
one of the impetus for us starting the family drug court. Sometimes you got to teach parents how to parent.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Do you have any comment, Leah, to add to that about what we need to do with our young people, and the tools that are out there, be it AI and other tools that can be utilized?
I do. And I want to flag that I actually, and we haven't talked about this, Talib, before, but I'm actually involved with an organization called Just One Solution Academy, and Just One Technology Academy. They literally work on a number of things that STEM for Us does. So what I mean when I say that, they do work in underserved communities, specifically working on a huge range of individuals, including our youth. So they work on after school programs. They also work on preventing recidivism. So they have received grants, et cetera, in terms of helping to educate individuals coming out of our nation's prisons, particularly the Black community, on coding, on in the ag community, on ag tech, on drone education, and the list goes on and as well as on medical IT skills. So just a huge drive. And I think the problem that we're talking about is bigger than ourselves. It's bigger than just one organization to solve the problem. I think we need to partner across organizations to garner support. And I don't want this to just be a plug for the academy that I've been involved in, but they do work in Illinois, the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, Mississippi, and they also do work in Canada, and they're about to do some work in Hawaii as well as in California. So I think the partnership is key here because this is bigger than us, and we can't solve it working in silos.
That's
So
right.
to the extent that we can establish partnerships, I would like to do that. This is a Black-owned nonprofit. A gentleman named Jerron Jones that grew up on the south side of Chicago, but sometimes I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah, no, I think you were going in and out, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Caleb, your last thoughts as we wrap it up here on the hour.
Absolutely. No, I'll be very brief. I just want to echo what's been said. I want to commend again STEM for us for putting this on. It's. I want to first say it's been a privilege.
Yeah,
to know about.
I think it's the Wi-Fi connection in the hotel, but I appreciate the partnership.
And I just wanted to say it's so good to learn about Judge Burnett and his legacy. I think one thing I've learned today is taking this back to the affiliates and the affinity bar associations, the importance of learning, addressing youth violence, but also understanding the technology. And I just want to do a quick note the LVMBA, the Las Vegas affiliate chapter for the National Bar Association, has been very adamant in trying to find ways, educating young children, even in high school, about the different avenues and trying to prevent violence from even starting. We partner with one of our local senators here every year in a youth injustice workshop where we bring in attorneys and we bring in police officers and we walk these students through the processes, not just how you deal with a police officer if you find yourself in that scenario. We walk them through those scenarios, but we do also tell them about how do you prevent issues from happening in the first place. One thing we will be adding this year is educating them on these tools, not just artificial intelligence, but other technology tools. One of the main sources of youth violence starts from bullying and oftentimes cyberbullying. And one thing that we've taken on in my capacity as president of the LVMBA is adding to this curriculum, educating these students on if someone is saying something about you online, right, you don't need to resort to violence in person. There are actually tools available. We walk them through the ways to report, but also to file what we call takedown notices on these various platforms, so they can remove language or content that they find and may be perceived as bullying. That's just one of the many ways. We're currently also working with a lot of our stakeholders and members of the legislature to present bills in our 2025 legislative session concerning artificial intelligence and its use. Lastly, I sit on the board, on the workforce for the State Bar of Nevada, our artificial intelligence workforce. And we're also trying to find ways in which we can use AI and other emerging technologies to address legal issues. So with that, I just implore our other affinity bar and affiliates to take on the same charge so we can continue the legacy of Judge Burnett. Thank you.
Well, I mean, it has been an amazing conversation, and I want to acknowledge every one of our sponsors. Abe Legal, the organization that I mentioned is a legal technology AI tool creation company that I helped to lead, called Weiss, which is a firm that's being led by Ted Wells, legendary Ted Wells out of New York. The Las Vegas chapter of the National Bar Association, our honorary chairman and the National Bar Association president, Dominique Calhoun, honorary co-chair, David Owens, the STEM for Us chairman, Randy Jones, past president of the National Bar Association, Kevin Judd, also past president of the National Bar Association, Joe Drayton, again, past president of the National Bar Association, Judge Cliff Brown out of Texas, Austin, Texas, Judge David Shahid, retired out of Indiana, Judge Billy Murphy, retired out of Baltimore, Judge Martha Lynn Sherrod, retired out of Alabama, Theodore Wells was mentioned as well in New York, Beverly Fields out of DC, Ellen Douglas out of Illinois, Caleb Green out of Nevada, of course, with us, Anthony Mayo out of Maryland, Bradley Farrar, also out of Maryland, Attorney Bradley Farrar, Roy Duplessis, a state senator, also out of one of the lawyers with Abe Legal, out of the great state of Louisiana, Jeanette Henry, one of the co-founding investors of Abe Legal, Hamid Sahar out of Indianapolis, Indiana, and Leah Perry, of course, who was with us. We want to just express our appreciation to all of our speakers, and also the Attorney General, who did an amazing job, and also the STEM for Us team of volunteers: Samir, Karim, Monique, Waith, Zakia Muhammad, and Ali Hussein. All these brothers and sisters worked diligently to put together this program, and we wanted to acknowledge them all. So without any further ado, it has been an amazing program. We are way over our time, so we appreciate the speakers for being a little patient with us. But, in this kind of, ability to kind of pivot in order to make sure that we had everybody heard, and we're able to still deliver what I believe it was probably even a more impactful conversation virtually than we were able to do in person. I just want each one of you all to know, Judge Sherrod, Leah, and Caleb, how grateful on behalf of STEM for Us we are to you for your partnerships. And we just invite you all to remain our partners. We're not just doing one event to salute Judge Burnett, but we committed this whole year, as you may remember, Judge Sherrod, at the memorial, we dedicated a whole year to honor Judge Burnett and our work. And so we hope that we will conclude that year next April with a big gala. And so we want to invite you all to be on our gala committee and roll your sleeves up to help us with this job of raising $15 million. I know that we can do it, and I look forward to celebrating that accomplishment next April at our gala, recognizing and honoring Judge Burnett and prayerfully being there with his family members.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge. Take care now. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Take care. Well, this has been STEM for Us. Please don't hesitate to check us out at stemforus.org. And feel free to give me a call at 202-256-0499 if you have any questions or hopefully recommendations. Partnerships, as was mentioned by Leah, we look forward to partnering with you. So without any further ado, have a wonderful day or evening.